So first thing, we will learn about validating a resource. I just mentioned what all topics are left over. So that is what we will be covering. So now the next topic, very important or interesting topic is how is, for example, if we are using this operation, how does CDR know that it has to validate the structure, what we are sending against, validate this payload against a structure. Where is that structure? How do we know that that structure lies within the CDR? Is there a resource for that? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And the resource is known as structure definition. There is a resource in the answer is structure definition. This is the resource. It is again the same resource. I will showcase how it looks like. It is a resource which is a huge resource. Because why I'm saying it is huge resource, we will talk about it. This is a resource which is present within the CDR, and the data, whenever you are sending it in XML, JSON or turtle format, it is validating against this structure. Now let's look into that concept. This is a very interesting concept, which is profiling concept. And there are base profiles already available within the Fire specification. Now, let's look into where you can find the base profiles. So if you look into the patient resource, if you just scroll down, if you go down to the specification, just below the specification, what they have done is they have given, this is a very important topic, guys. You need to understand this one. Here, they have given the structure in XML or in the JSON format. So I will showcase how JSON looks like. You can feel free to look into the XML format when you get time. So if I click on it, you will find a page which is talking about a resource type structure definition, and it is for patient. And let's go back and scroll down. You can read a lot how this is built. This is built using the specification of this one. Now there is a base URL for patient. So this is the base URL. Base URL in the sense, this is the base structure definition present for patient resource. Now, whenever you will send a resource type as patient, CDR is always going to validate against this structure. Everything what you see, let's go back to this page. Everything what you see here, from starting from patient, let's talk about one data type, identifier. Identifier has further childs, then further childs and further childs. Even if there are value sets defined, what values it can hold. Just an example, control F patient dot gender. What values it can hold? It can hold this value. For now, what is the minimal cardinality? What is the maximum cardinality? Let's talk about it. Is modifier, is summary, binding strength. What is the binding strength? Everything is mentioned in this, and the data is validated against this profile. When I say profile, it is nothing but a structure definition resource. People will always say a profile. It is always a structure definition resource behind the scene. Now, very important part. These are already pre-populated in the CDR. CDR will be pre-populated with all the structure definition resources which are being supported in the CDR. What it means, considering there are 145 resources present as a part of R4 release, if CDR says that he supports only one resource as patient resource, then one resource will be capability statement, which is mandatory from the Fire server, that a Fire server has to host a capability statement. Along with that, they also have to host, when I say host, they will store another resource which will be structure definition for patient. If they're saying they're storing supporting practitioner, they will also be holding the, again on the same lines. If I click on practitioner resource, go below the specification, there is the structure definition present for practitioner resource also. So this is structure definition practitioner. The base URL we'll talk about, it is for practitioner. Whenever you are sending a data, the data is validated against the base structure definition. Now, this is one concept where structure definition is coming into picture. Now let's talk about the most important part, that Sahil is always saying that uh, resources which are there in the where is patient list. Let's talk about this. The attributes which are present as part of a resource, almost everything thing is optional. So if everything is optional, if I have to build an application, can I restrict can I restrict something that I want these attributes mandatorily? And is there a way I can add extensions that I need these extensions mandatorily? Can I change the cardinality? Can I add a flag to the attribute? The answer is yes, but there are some rules which you need to adhere to, and the concept is known as profiling concept. Behind the scene, what is going to happen? You will be tweaking. So when I say you will be, let's try to copy this. It is huge, but let's try to copy. So there are two concepts you need to learn in profiling. Profiling manually, if you do, you will seriously die, because working on this much code uh, in manual context, it is seriously very difficult. Now considering the patient resource, if you want to restrict, like Hayden wants to build a CDR or a application, and he wants that, okay, let's talk about a couple of things here. Patient dot gender, he will say that I found everything is optional in the patient resource. Let's go back and see. Everything is optional in the patient resource. I want, considering, you can take any example, considering gender as an example, I want that people should mandatorily send gender attribute to me. So behind the scene, you now understood that if gender needs to be mandatory, one, over here, base specification says it is 0 is to 1. So that means you need to tweak this structure definition resource, which is a profile, which will act as a profile for you. And then if the structure is validated against your new profile, then it will mandatorily throw an error that, okay, now the structure definition says gender is mandatory, and when if the source is not sending me gender, then it will throw you an error. So what all things you need to change in the base specification? So let's talk about what you need to change. So first thing you need to change is, let's close this extension. You need to say this URL is now a unique URL. You can say v1, you can say anything, you can say patient profile one, something. You need to tell that it is a unique URL against which the data will be validated. We will see how we will tell the CDR that data needs to be validated against this profile, but this URL has to be unique within the CDR. Patient, till patient, it was already existing. I just added v1. You can add custom rules, something, whatever is okay for you, or a naming standard which you have applied on your projects, you can add. So as of now, I have added v1, which is making this structure definition as unique. Now let's go back and talk about patient.gender. Here, a very simple thing what you have to do is you have to say minimum needs to be 1. Here also minimum needs to be 1. Anything else, that's it. So this is a manual task I am doing. Now if I post, now what steps you need to follow? Once profile is ready. So when I say profile is ready, which means a structure definition resource is ready, which is I have created. So what all things I have done, I have mandated a couple of fields. When I say couple of fields, in this case, you can mandate n number of fields based on what or how you are designing the application. I just showcased one example of a structure definition where I mandated patient.gender attribute. Then once we say I have mandated and I have made sure URL is unique. So now the URL is also unique. So now what steps you have to do? Post it to the CDR. Couple of points you need to know. Not all CDR will allow you to post structure definition, because those are the key resources which will change the context, because if someone tweaks those things, the validation of resource will be, or the data which is consumed by the application will be, either it will go hit or it will go wrong. So you need to check whether you have privileges to load the structure definitions to the CDR. So post it to the CDR. Then whenever you are creating a resource, let's talk about this thing now. So this is a patient resource what we built. Where is notepad? Okay, so this is a patient resource what we built. Considering now there is a attribute which is very important. If you go back to patient, there is a domain resource. If you click on domain resource follow resource. If you need to click on resource, where you get a privilege to write meta. So this is where meta comes into picture, and again writing the attribute on the same lines, right? Double quotes meta closed. Now it is saying 0 is to 1. Let's look into it is complex or not. It is complex. So the flower bracket. Now over here, meta has these many attributes. Which one you need to pick? The right one is for profile. It says profile. So the attribute is profile. Now, now it is again on the same lines. It is repeating. It is 0 is to star. So you need to put square bracket. It is canonical. Canonical means you need to provide a URL. Canonical, if you read, it is a URL property which you need to pass. So which URL it will be? Anybody who can guess which URL it would be? Yes, unique URL which we created, which is patient underscore v1. So if you pass this over here, where did it go? Okay, it is here, double quotes. If you pass this, now rather than validating the data against the base profile, your data will be validated against your profile. So this is where when Hayden will build an application, someone who is posting the data, he has to build the structure, and while building the structure, he has to tell that please validate the data against this profile. Any questions? What is profiling? Now we will talk about rules of profiling. I just talked about what is the base of profile. So you are restricting what is given in the base specification. And then once you have restricted, how do you tell the implementer that you need to adhere to a particular profile? This is the meta attribute will tell you, or meta attribute will tell the piece of code, which is your CDR logic, will tell uh, the CDR logic that please adhere to this structure definition rather than the base structure definition. Any questions? What is a profile? Profile is that people will say we are doing profiling, but behind the scene, they are working on structure definition resource. That is one thing. So now let's talk about the rules. What are the rules for profiling? Question: can we add a attribute? Can we add an
No,
attribute? Answer is definitely no.
not
You
extend.
cannot.
Yeah,
You
sure.
you cannot add any attribute to the resource. So this is where you can restrict extensions also, that minimum one extension with this URL and this value string has to be there. Now extension is the answer. Can I remove the attribute? When I say remove the attribute, it is marking it optional. So the answer is, if Fire has marked that attribute as mandatory, you cannot mark that as optional. If that is optional, you can definitely mark it as mandatory. You can increase the number of repetitions, but considering, let's say, if it is 1 is to or 0, let's consider there is an attribute which is 0 is to 2, or 0 is to 3, you cannot go beyond it. You cannot create a cardinality for an attribute which is 0 is to 5, which you will not find, because you will always find it is 0 is to star. You can definitely say, rather than having 0 is to star, you can say 0 is to 2, 0 is to 3. You can definitely do it. You cannot remove a mandatory attribute which is there in the base specification. Is this clear? You cannot remove the attribute with 1 is to 1 cardinality. Can we mandate any attribute? Answer is yes. You can mandate any attribute which is optional. If it is already mandatory, that is mandatory by Fire as a base specification. You cannot even touch it. So if it is optional, you can definitely mandate it in your profile, and profile is nothing but another resource, your structure definition resource. Coming to the next one, can we change the binding strength of a resource? What is binding strength? If you go back to the resource, binding strength, if it is required, you cannot change it to preferred, extensible, or example. But it is ulta. If it is example, you can change it to extensible, preferred, or required also. This is all written. I will show you one grid. I copied all the useful URLs. So there are two couple of grids which are mentioned. I will just showcase those grids here. Changing changing cardinality. Scan if anything is 0 is to 1, can you make it 0 is to 0? You can go talk about this. Talking about this, if it is 1 is to star, what all things you can do? This is the things you can do. You can mandate it. You can make it 1 is to n. That is also okay. 1 is to n. What all things you can do? You cannot change, mark it as optional. This is also optional. You cannot mark it as repeating also. That is not possible. 1 is to 1, it is always it is given by the base specification. 1 is to n, you cannot, because the max cardinality, I told you, you cannot breach the max cardinality. You cannot say if it is 1 is to 1, you cannot even say 1 is to 2. It is 1 is to n, you cannot do it. So this is the profiling concept. We will talk about the binding strength. There is a grid for similar grid for binding strength. Then there are two examples we have to learn. I will go to the binding strength also. This one. So it is here. So if anything is required, so it goes like this. So this is with the maximum strength, and below the strength decreases. So if anything is required, you cannot change it to anything else. But considering from the below, if it is example with the minimal strength, you can change it to preferred. Yeah. Or you can change it to required. Yes. You can change it to extensible. Definitely. You can change it to preferred. Yes. Example is always example. So you can change it. On the same lines, you cannot change it to example because it is with the minimal strength. You cannot go down. You can seriously go up. Is this point clear, guys? This is important for profiling. Again, you don't have to do it manually, but even if you have to use a tool, you will be you should be aware of the context, that what you can change, what you cannot change. Now, there is another concept in profiling which is known as slicing. A small concept, slicing. Now, what is this slicing? So slicing is a concept, or I would say profiling concept applied on repeating attributes. Okay, so we'll give you a very basic example. Consider Hayden is building an application. I think the same example is present in, we'll talk about that example, how they have done it. So considering Hayden is building an application now, and it is built on Fire standard. We'll talk about one attribute in patient resource, which is telecom, which is repeating. If you scroll down, where is telecom? Telecom. It is repeating. So now what Hayden will do? Hayden wants that minimum one phone number and minimum one email has to be there in the telecom as an attribute. It is repeating, that is okay. But now what Hayden wants, the first repetition has to be the home phone number. The second repetition of telecom should be the email address of the person. So how do you achieve it? So that is where the slicing concept comes into picture. Let's see the example. There is an example given here for that slicing part. I think not here. There is another URL, slicing examples, profiling examples. Let's look into the slicing examples. The same example, the what he wants is, so this is a snapshot. If you on a high level, if someone wants to understand, what I said is, one phone number has to be there. The first occurrence will be the phone number. The second occurrence will be the email. I think they have, these are the rules. There must be a single home phone number. There must be a work phone number. Okay, they want a work phone number also. The patient may have an email address. May is optional. It is an optional. Other type of contacts are allowed if the patient is providing. So first one is mandatory, second one is optional, third one is optional. So let's see how they have put it into the profiling concept. So again, this is everything coming from your structure definition. If you go to the structure definition, how do you write an attribute on the same lines? So what they have done is they have added a slice. Let's just scroll down. So on the same lines, they're saying this is a slice for patient.telecom. Then within patient.telecom, they are saying there are slices they are creating. So this is all coming from the structure definition. So it is again minimum one. Why it is minimum one? Because their use case is minimum one phone number should be there, other two are optional. So they are saying minimum 1 is to 3. Then going down, so this is the first slice for home phone number. Element is patient.telecom. They are saying name.value is home phone number, and they have this is a name given to this slice. Now this is the cardinality they have given, 1 is to 1. Now each attribute within telecom will be defined. Element telecom dot system. It is mandated. They are saying it is fixed code is phone. So you cannot change it to anything else. Or the first occurrence of telecom, you cannot be anything else apart from phone. Element telecom dot value. Minimum is required is 1. You can have a string value within it. On the same lines, minimum telecom value path is this is okay, we discussed. Use, so this is the home phone number is required as 1 and it is mandated. Second one is optional, so that is where you see 0 is to 1. And then scroll down again, telecom dot system, minimum value is 1. If they are using it, it is a home phone, it is a other phone number. It is an optional value. If you are using it, then only these pictures will come into, these attributes will come into picture. Third one, a slice for email, patient dot telecom. The use will tell you whether it's a email or not. It is here, it is all talking about email. So you need to add an email address of the patient, and it is also optional. So this is how slicing works on repeating attribute, that you can restrict the repetition of or occurrences of a object within a array. That is how you tell that I want first occurrence to be this, second occurrence to be this. These are the fixed codes, and you definitely can restrict the codes also. Now, if you look all of this in the notepad, or even if this example you look into it, it is very complicated. I think there is another example for observation resource. So this is the outcome of it once you do it. Now, first, let's look into a tool using which you can do this profiling very easily. The concept is there are tools which you can use. There is a ClinFire. But Forge is actually more in demand because I think this provides a better visualization. So you can install the tool. This is I downloaded, then open next. You can just download the tool. Okay. Now I need to open a project. So I'm opening a Fire project. Very now once I open a Fire project, I will just open up structure definition. So once I open a structure definition, whatever you see in the patient resource over here, everything is listed in the UI format. So what I did over here was active. If you see active, active was optional. I just made it mandatory. If you see, this is, you don't have to do anything. I just have to say 1 is to 1. And there are grids available. You just have to select a grid, which one you are opting for. You don't have to go to the profile. For example, in this, if you go back, Control F, patient dot active, you don't have to struggle in so many lines of code. Where should I mark it as active? Where should I mark 1 is to 1? And then in behind the scene, it will make it as mandatory. You don't have to struggle. You just have to say 1 is to 1 and it will make it as mandatory. There are a couple of constraints I added on identifier. I said the expression, I said value should exist, or I said system should exist. That sort of constraints you can add. Then behind the scene, what it does, so I will talk about differential versus snapshot. Just look into the xml which is built behind the scene. It is saying that under differential, I will talk about what is differential. Patient dot identifier was tweaked. These are the constraints which are added. Patient dot active, which is marked as mandated, and the minimum value is marked as 1. Now talking about two parts of it, there is something known as In profiling, there is something known as snapshot, and there is something known as differential. It is not a concept I am creating, it is a concept, resources. It is a concept which is lying in the specification. So there, if you just scroll down to the specification, you will find there is something known as snapshot. There is something known as differential. So what is this snapshot? What is this differential? Let's talk about this snapshot and differential. So snapshot, what is snapshot? Snapshot will include all the attributes for the resource, touched or untouched. Which means if you have touched, for example, we change the cardinality of the gender, that will also be there. And also apart from it, the untouched attribute, when I say untouched attribute, those are coming from the base profile, will also be there as a part of snapshot. Now what is this differential? This differential is in case you have touched anything on top of base specification, those differences you need to mention in the differential part. That is where, if you are seeing the Word document, the snapshot will be exported once we export this XML. But in the differential, it is showcasing. It is not telling me what is the maximum cardinality. Anyone who will tell me why? Because it is untouched. Whatever I have touched, why patient.active is there? Because somewhere we have to tell for which attribute we have changed the cardinality. So whatever, for example, in this patient.active, there are many attributes, but you only touched one thing. You just touched the cardinality and only touched the base cardinality, the minimum one. So this is where you marked it as mandatory and it is now as one. Same thing, identifier. There are n number of attributes in identifier. There is type, there is use, there is period, there is assigner, all of that. You didn't touch it. That is why you don't see it in identifier. Where you will see all the attributes which are there, including what all you have changed, that will be part of snapshot. So I'll give you one example. Uh, I will not share this profile. This is a actual profile, but just giving you one example how this looks like. So this is how a profile will look like somewhere, or who has built it. This is for what? We'll scroll down. Two concepts. One is known as snapshot. So this is the snapshot. It is for observation resource. It will hold, if you see the size, it is holding everything, all the attributes present within the observation resource, whether touched or untouched. Now, second part, if I just close this snapshot, because snapshot is huge, because a resource can have n number of attributes and each attribute can have further childs, then further childs, then further childs based on the data type defined in the specification. But if I'm only interested in knowing what is changed from the base specification, feel free to look into the differential part. So what they are saying is they have added an extension. Hope this is clear. This is parent. Within parent, they have added an extension. What they have done, they have added a slice also. Slice, there are rules. So what they are saying is this is the name given to the extension. So here they are saying this is the profile for the extension. This is now the part of, this is observation dot, there is an attribute part of. Now they have restricted that only this URL has to be part of this attribute. Observation.code.coding. This is the attribute present. Code is the parent. Under code, there is a coding. Let's see what they have done. So they have said this is a slice which they have done. And for that slice, the system has to be this. The code has to be this. It has to use value x, and out of value x, which one you have to use? Value quantity you have to use. For value quantity, the system has to be this. The unit has to be this. Body site, it is max is 0. Let's leave that. So what is this method? They have given a value set. The coming back to your question, Hidden. If we have to tell that what all other values can be, rather than saying fixed value, you can say value set. So now there is a value set defined. You can go to this. This is another structure definition for value set, which you can open, and from there the values can be picked. So all of this can be defined in the profile, and it is a tedious job. It is rarely it is actually a tedious job. And if you have to build a profile, you would require minimal couple of developers and a clinical expert. For example, if you have to build a patient profile, then I think Hayden can work on it, thinking, okay, this is mandated in my application. But if it is with respect to, for example, as I said, it is for heart. The profile is for heart. The observations are going to flow from a cath lab, and what will be mandated, what will not be mandated, what is the fixed code. For example, this is for oxygen consumption. We can just understand in layman terms that some oxygen is consumed by the patient. So what will be the unit, what will be the code, what is from where it is taken, what is the body site, what is the method using which the oxygen is consumed. All of this, someone, a nurse or a clinical expert, a clinical IT expert has to be present, who knows healthcare IT, will be guiding you all of this. This is not built by us. When I say us, it is we being an implementer. This is built by a person who is building an application along with the clinical expert. If I will tell you, if I talk to this lady, there is someone, if I talk to this person, she's so much into clinical knowledge. She can tell me, she's always talking to me in this context. There is left vena cava. If you open left vena cava, you will find a right artery. Within that right artery, you will find this body site. This body site will give you this observation. For me, that is all just above my head, because I just understand that I will receive a fire resource. But for them, it is exact observation which they are actually working on. So this is where clinical experts needs to be there for the clinical detailing of the resource. Now, doing it practically, you will have to build or get a tool to do hands-on, because doing it manually will definitely be a tedious job. And all of this will be exported seamlessly. I think I added a screenshot. Let's see if it is there. Then I think go to settings, you can save snapshot component, then you will get the entire export of your structure definition for the patient resource or any other resource which you are working on. Once you get an export, you are okay to use that in your profile, and then using resource.meta.value, you will tell the end application that I am adhering to this profile. Can we discuss on considering if a application or an integration engine is receiving HL7 message, how the fire is being constructed out of it? So over here, if you see, this is an emulator. I've configured an emulator here. A HL7 message is kept. Okay, a HL7 message is kept. So here, what I have done is I have used Rhapsody as an integration engine, which is capable of receiving HL7 messages and can help me transform into the fire resources. So I can showcase the code base also. It is a sample code base which I created last night. I am building two resources, and it is a bundle resource. Let me open it also. So I built two resources, and it is a bundle resource. Let it just give it a second. These definition files are pretty heavy, so it takes some time. Yeah, perfectly it opens. So considering you will now be receiving HL7 message, and I have added a EDI specification of HL7 message. Now, how I was able to add it? Because Rhapsody provides me a provision. Can you add it in any tool? You need to explode that tool. The answer is you need to explode that tool. So here, what is this mapper? I have used a mapper which is capable of accepting an input schema and capable of accepting a output schema. So what I've done is I have added a schema of bundle output. You can add a single resource also. So here there is input schema, there is a output schema. Once you add it, you will get a definition. This is a base that I'm at the main class. This is, you can consider a parent class. This is the input schema. The HL7 ADT A04 will have these many segments. Now, whether I will be sending these many, answer is no. I will only send 4 segments. I have added a schema of bundle resource over here, and everything which you see in the specification of bundle resource is added here. Now, what I did for you, I just said this is a now JavaScript code, a very basic one. I said I will create a patient resource and an encounter resource, and I will establish a relationship between encounter to patient because encounter refers to patient. How I know this? This is written in the fire specification. So now what I did, I created another. This is how code organization is doing. So that is okay. You can just think about it. Created a subclass or another method you can think of, and I called that method. If you see map patient, I passed PID segment. I know PID segment can be mapped to the patient resource. If you see this is in, and this is the out. So this is input. The parameter name I have given is as in. This is I have given as out specifically just to let you know that this is coming as in, this is going as out. So I will go to my method map to patient. I have mapped whatever I can think. So this is a static value I have given. I don't, I'm not telling you to hard code it. There are configurations you need to provide. As of now, I have hard coded in my tool. That is on you, how you are organizing your code. So now I know that MRN of a patient is coming in PID 3. I did it in out.identify.value.value. So this is where the role of a business analyst. I mean, if a person is techno functional, he will have to evaluate. Now, very important aspect, everything needs to be first documented. That patient resource PID will come. These are the segments which are coming. These are the fields it will hold, and you will have to create an Excel sheet. That Excel sheet developer will take and he will do this sort of mapping. So I've done a base mapping for you. So again, I have just added, I'm considering I will get M. If I'm not getting M, I will just mark it as female. You can handle all the scenarios. If hospital is sending T, please go ahead and create extensions. If hospital is sending U, you can mark it as unknown. So that is the basic full-fledged code you can write. This is just a basic code I have written. So on the same lines, I will go to the main class. So I have to increment the entry because bundle is a combination of entries where each entry is a collection of resource. Now I just incremented the entry by one. This entry I created as a global variable. I will scroll this down. This entry I created here. This is a global. Now it is all Rhapsody concepts. Where to create what. So I've created this entry and entry. If you know, array starts from zero. So that is where I have marked this as zero. So I've marked this as +1 because I am saying that I have created a patient resource now. This is a concept of full URL which will be referenced. So over here, if you just see entry I have incremented, I am calling map encounter, map encounter. Over here, all of this I have marked the visit number in the identifier. I am saying this patient has arrived. So all of this is the patient class. I'm marking that patient class here. Now, referencing part, I am marking this is a patient subject full URL. So where in Rhapsody to declare global, which will be accessible in the entire code, this is a placeholder. So I've marked patient full URL here. So patient full URL, I am constructing in the main class. So when I'm constructing the patient full URL in the main class, that will be accessible in uh, map encounter also, which is the subclass within the main class. Now, output of this, closing this, moving this up, closing this. I will just do a check. Check-in is committing the changes to the engine. I want output in the JSON format. That is why I've just added it here. So if I just click on send and I will go to, or I can use HTTP call to get the response in the server back also. So now, so if you see, I will just see this is a TCP server. Here the HL7 message is received. Nothing specific we are doing. I just use an emulator where HL7 message was triggered. I received it. Now the Excel file which was given by a business analyst, or if it is a techno-functional person, he will have to create that Excel file, and then he will have to build the entire file resources. So the output of the mapper is always XML. I didn't want to look into the XML, so I want to build it in the JSON format. So this is the JSON I have constructed via code. So if you see, this is the full URL which I have constructed dynamically. I'm saying patient resource is this one. This is all I have mapped from there. I'm just saying this is the request method. Now encounter resource. This is the bundle concept. This is all I have mapped from the incoming sample. Subject is referring to patient. How, and we learned the concept of full URL. So this full URL present here, if I just double click on it, this full URL is similar to what is present in patient. So whenever CDR will receive it, CDR will understand that this resource is lying within the bundle context only, and he will create this resource, and the reference will be passed here. Once the patient resource will be created, what CDR does is CDR will remove this, and whatever the logical ID will be returned back, he will put something like 123 something. This is a behind the scene what CDR is doing. Might be CDR is doing something else, but you should be aware that what is that full URL context what CDR will be using to reference encounter with the patient. So now if I do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, if I just do copy, I can post it also. Probably it will work also. Let's see. I'll post it to the public server. Bundle. I think my machine is slow. Not, it is not the it was not the Rhapsody issue. I have not rebooted from months. So okay, so fine. It says it is 200 OK, which is created. In this case, bundle will always give you 200 OK. For each resource, you need to go ahead and check. It says it has created a patient resource. It has created the encounter resource also. So 201 for encounter, 201 for what is this? Patient. Okay, so this is what I was saying. There is a object, happy message object, which is available within Rhapsody. So you can, this is also available. We some, this is rarely used within our Rhapsody integration engine, but happy library is available for parsing the message also. So then this is a method you can explore when you will have that jar, you can explore those jar files, what methods are exposed within that jar. Rhapsody provides you provision to add external jars also. So you can add external jars here, and then you can call that external jars in your code. So all of those sorts are okay. You can definitely do all of those things. In Smile CDR, or let's say first Smile CDR, Smile CDR is a product. Smile CDR is a product which works on FHIR standards. So now what is the Smile CDR? Smile CDR is a ETL module product. Talking about how ETL was built, it will extract something from somewhere. It will transform what is extracted, and then it will load it into some database. So that is why ETL comes into picture. Let's talk about snapshot, not snapshot paint, sorry. So what is this ETL now? Considering you have a database. So you have a database, your most of the database, whenever you will export, it is going to give you CSV file. Even if you talk about SQL Server, you will get a CSV file. So considering this is the SQL Server, whenever you will export it, you will get a CSV file. Considering this anybody knows what is CSV file? It is a comma separated file with a header.
Yeah.
It's a flat file known as comma separated. There is a delimiter. Actually, there's a delimiter. You can define that delimiter, whether it's a comma, it's a pipe, it can be asterisk, anything. By default, it is comma. By default, it is comma. So this is the first part what you have to understand, that extraction. Some from somewhere extraction will happen. In this case, considering it is happening from a database. Now this is CSV. Considering this is the I will showcase now what is that ETL. I've kept two rows for your understanding. Consider this is the data export from a patient table. I have not added all the columns, and it might be not, it is not a normalized database also. Consider just we took a export. So this is a header. Anybody knows what this header would be meaning for the other person? These are the columns, or it will tell what is in the first comma, what is in the second separated comma, what is in the third separated comma. So the header is very, very, very important within the CSV file or within ETLs. So I am saying that the first one is MRN, second one is name, and I have specifically mentioned name as Jodo so that there are chances that people will store it as a combination, or a good database developers will store it separately. First name separate, last name separate, middle name separate. Considering you can get anything and everything, I have taken this as an example. I have specifically marked the date as in this format because Fire accepts hyphen. I have used M as M for male, F for female, and Fire accepts the entire male and female as an abbreviation. This is are some random phone numbers and marital status I have marked. So now this is the export. So now what is going to happen in the transformation? I will showcase first in Rhapsody, then I found some snapshots of a Smile CDR ETL. On the similar lines, we will showcase that also. So let's see how I am doing it. Yeah, so here, if you look into this one, what is going to happen? We need to identify the data type we are receiving. When I say data type, it is what type of data we are receiving. Then once you identify that it is patient demographics, identify the resource. Now, parsing logic on Rhapsody, how it works is on the same side. I think Smile CTR will also work on the same thing. What will happen? We will process one row at a time. So that is where, if you look into my interface now, you can consider it to be, I am doing a debatching. I am debatching each row at a time. I am not interested in the header. So header, there will be no resource created. Header is just to tell that the first value is MRN, second value is name, third value is X, fourth value is Y. Now, so that is where, if you see, I have debatched. So what this debatch will do, it will create three messages for me. I will showcase everything. So it will create three messages. As I said, no resource will be created from header. So I have added a logic that if the body contains the header value, you please discard. I am just saying put it to sync, or I will just rename discard. Okay, so I've marked it as discard. I will tell you why I've marked it as success also. Uh, Now, I will be getting one row at a time. So in this case, where is Postman? I will be getting this row. So I know how to build a fire resource now. I have some data of patient demographics. Again, you need to create an Excel sheet that MRN goes in identify.value. Jodo is the name. It has to go in name.family, name.given. This date of birth goes in birth date and the format is something different. Gender goes in gender, but it accepts MALE as for male, FEMALE for female. Phone number, it goes in telecom.value. Email ID goes in telecom.value. Married goes in marital status dot some code. So how did I interpret everything in Rhapsody? So I wrote a patient resource, the entire thing. As I have told, the default value is resource type as patient. I have declared it as an object. So all of this now I have mapped identifier. So what I am doing, I will I will receive one row at a time. You can write different parsing logic. So what I did is I chose to split based on comma, that I know that is it is a comma separated file. Then the first array object will be my MRN. That is where I have wait, this one. Now if I split on array, the first occurrence will be the MRN of a patient. Static value I have given for a system. Then I am building the object back. Then I am declaring a new name. How do I know that name is an array? Name is array because I know it is in the specification, it is 0 is to star. If you do it in the mapper takes care of adding square bracket, flower bracket, everything. But if we look into this specification or this filter, you need to add all flower brackets, square brackets manually via code. So this is where I have added name as an object. Name is repeating, so I've added two things. So birth date, I wrote a function for, I will just scroll down. I said format birth date. I am giving date as a parameter. It is in this format and I need in this format, and it is a Rhapsody inbuilt function method. If you pass any date format and if you tell this is the format and which format you want, you can definitely get an output of it. So again, you can write, even if it is not there, you can use a substring. First four characters, then put a static hyphen, then second two characters, then put a hyphen, then last two characters. So any parsing logic if you want, whatever is comfortable with you, you can write it. Then gender, I wrote another function map gender and I passed the M or F coming from source. As of now, I've just mentioned M for a male, F for female. I think I've also handled, see, consider a source can send it in lowercase or uppercase. So it is always better you handle all the scenarios, whether they can send it in lowercase or in uppercase. So I just considered the best value that I am. You can send me anything, but when I've written my logic, I will expect it in. I will do the comparison in the uppercase. So I created an object where one will be phone number, one will be the email. I think I didn't map marital status. I think I missed mapping the marital status, but that is okay. It is on the same parsing logic. You just have to add marital status. Now, if I just send it, it is already connected to a public fire server. It has sent. It is saying that the message is received. I am processing internally. So if I go back to my Rhapsody console, CSV receiver has received the message over here. If you see, it has splitted three messages for me. One, the header is discarded. The header is discarded. Then there are two messages which are constructed. Construct patient resource. So it has built a patient resource for me. Now, I have already connected this interface to a CDR. I am getting a response also. So here it says the patient resource, the response code. You can check here. It says 201 created, and this is the logical ID retrieved back from the CDR. On the same front, if I just scroll up, there was another resource which was female. It is also posted to the CDR, and let's see the response code. It is 201 created, and again on the same lines, this is the logical ID of the resource. So ETL also does the same operation. Let me show you something. The Smile CDR context. I found it in the documentation. There is one example given. I think I'll take the same example because they have only one example given. What they are saying is, let this page open, that this extract, transform, and load. It is on the same lines that you will get a CSV file. This CSV file looks something like this, and there is a header. There is some data for corresponding to that header. So they are also taking two rows. What is that going to happen is you need to create a module. Just understand, I worked on Smile CDR for a couple of days. So Smile CDR, you need to create a module. Module is nothing but a endpoint where you will tell that I am going to receive a CSV. You also define a separator. We will define a separator as comma. Once you define a separator, then there is a default function. There is a consider this to be the Smile CDR. This will be the page, something like this. This is the page, what I remember from my experience of Smile CDR. This is a page. So here you will define the module name. Here you will define what is the delimiter. Then there will be a big box, something like this, where you will have a provision to write the code. The code will have a default method which will say handle ETL import row with two parameters. One will be the input map. Input map is nothing but the input feed coming from your CSV. Now, how do you write the data? So if you see, you can write this is log.info. This is just for logging purpose that we have received the data. I'm starting the processing of the data file. Now you have to tell which resource you are going to build. This is the internal method. Resource builder is the method they use. Within that class, there is a method build, and you are saying you are going to build patient resource. This is for generating dynamically UIDs. These are all the methods you might have to explore. Now let's talk about the important part. This is the static value they have given to system. Now important part is the value MRN of the patient. Input map, as I said, input map is holding your entire row. Now, if you just tell that you are looking for ID as a column, so what it does is the header it will store, and the rest of the message it will just do one row at a time. And the header, once it is stored, now it knows that header ID is one. So it will find where the ID is present in that particular row, and it will map that value on the same lines. Family name, given name, middle name is mapped, birth date is mapped. I think birthday they are giving it in the correct format also. So this is the same format which is accepted by the CDR. If it is not accepted, you can write. This is again JavaScript, no separate language. This is plain JavaScript they are using. Then once you map it, what they do is, this is another class. Within that class, there is a new uh, method, new transaction builder, and then you will just say create patient. Again, transaction is the object which will have a method create patient, and then you just have to say fire.transaction, and this value will hold your payload. This statement, I struggled with this statement. What is the meaning? This statement will post the data to your CDR, and then there will be a API exposed, and now you know how to write the Fire APIs. There will be a API on the endpoint within the base server URL. You can write the Fire APIs to fetch the data. I didn't find the details about exposing the API, how to get the data out of it, but it will be on the Fire standard. You know how to create a Fire API now. You will be able to retrieve the data back from the CDR using the Fire API concepts. So this is with respect to Smile CDR. Same thing I just showcased you via Rhapsody, where there is a UI and all. How do you hit that module? It is again an API call which you have to do, and this data will be posted to the your module within the Smile CDR, where the you have defined that comma is the delimiter. We will only work on this front. There is a use case. There is a company called AI. I think it is in Gurgaon based company. I don't remember where is it. I think it is Gurgaon based. Some of the folks working in healthcare, they are working to enable scheduling as a platform. So what is that they're doing? So they're more interested in artificial intelligence. So that is where AI word was brought in. Call is, I will talk about call, what is it called? But the use case is the patient is going to book an appointment. So again, I will talk about the context, how people will talk to you. They were not knowing fire. They are not even knowing what is fire as a standard. They just say, ki our use case is, let's talk about that use case. This is how people will talk to you so there is a person who wants to book an appointment for XYZ practitioner. This is a practitioner. So I will put I is also for a doctor. So this is a practitioner. So practitioner and patient is sad because he is not well. So this is a patient who is going to book an appointment for Dr. ABC, but how that appointment booking will happen? So they are nowadays people are smart. They are working on artificial intelligence. They are going to create a layer of a artificial bot. What this bot will do, so you will have to interact with bot, and this bot will interact to the CDR. Here there is a CDR. So here there is a CDR. So CDR has the details of the practitioner. Now patient will be asked couple of questions to validate the authenticity. For example, when you call bank, right, that I have couple of questions with respect to my bank account. They will say, can you tell me your name, your email address, phone number, mother's name, something. So on the same lines, they will ask you a couple of questions for validating your authenticity, considering you are already existing in the hospital. That is a separate case. If you are not there, then he will register you. Considering you are already registered, then the first part is he will say, hi, I am this. I want to book an appointment. Then he will say, let me ask your authenticity. Then couple of questions will be uh, fired to that person. Then when the couple of questions are fired, this person will have to answer those questions. So that is the first API call. Once the questions are asked, let's say the questions are, tell me your name, gender, and date of birth. So what is going to happen? The Fire call AI, this artificial bot, will hit the Fire server using the Fire API and will try to see whether this patient actually exists or not. So this is the Fire API which is built behind the scene. Once the data comes back, then what is the next step? So this, he will say you are successfully authenticated. Then he will say, I need an appointment for provider ABC. Then what is going to happen? He will say, I need appointment for ABC. He will build another query, hit the CDR, get the data out of it. And now all of this is the Fire concepts. Uh, you need to find the schedule of a particular MRN of the patient, or sorry, MRN of the practitioner. So considering he told that I know the NPI ID of the practitioner or name, I just used NPI because there was a data existing in the CDR. So if you know the name, you can derive this query. So this will give you the slots. Now, next would be Once the slot, so he will say there are 5 slots available. So you need to select a slot. Patient will say, I am okay with 9 a.m. So he will be, he over here, please select a slot, update the slot and mark it as busy. So this is all working behind the scene. There are different resources we talked about, right? Slot resource will be available. Slot will have reference to schedule. Schedule has a reference to a practitioner. All of this. So slot will be marked as busy, and then once it is marked as busy, patient will be updated with the slot. Then he will be in this case their point was, before you just, it is a soft booking. Once you book, you if you say patient is saying 9 a.m., you just say ki, I am booking your slot for 9 a.m., is it okay? Then he will confirm the booking, then the appointment will be created, appointment resource will be created, and then the patient will be updated with the details. So this is where appointment, you need to do a post and all the stuff. So this is slot which will be marked as busy. Considering appointment rescheduling, patient calls for rescheduling, what is going to happen is, now we need to check what all are the available schedules. So we will fetch the schedule for the healthcare provider, HCP's healthcare provider. Then the EMR who is working on a fire server will respond with the schedule and the slot resource for that healthcare provider. Patient selects another resource, another slot which is available. Now the slot will be marked as busy and appointment will be created. Then the patient will be updated with the appointment details. So again, cancellation, it is pretty straightforward. Patient calls for cancellation. The slot will be marked as free. The appointment will be marked as cancelled. Then patient will be updated. Your appointment has been cancelled. So all of this, the use case was what I did when I discussed this one, right? They were not interested in knowing how the fire will work. They were saying, this is what we will do. Can you help in data modeling, finding the right resource, then identifying how data model will work. This is where the exercise we worked with them, and they are now building the artificial intelligence who can do this job for them. So on the same lines, any module, people might not be knowing the fire standard, they might be knowing their own terminologies. They will say they are just solving the scheduling workflow, but they don't know what issues are there. They might know what issues are there, but they might not know what standards are available in healthcare to solve those issues. So this is where one use case I wanted to discuss.